Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is week 11 for our GBS Beginner English class at Sooncheng University. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the final 5 weeks of class. That means you need to start studying for your midterm tests. This midterm test, you don't have to, or this final test, you don't have to worry about. Your final tests coming up, you're going to have to study for those tests more. For our class, you need to practice. And that's what we're going to get to for the next couple of weeks. We're going to get into more practice, and we're going to get into a lot more activities. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're excited because we are going to be doing so much in the next few weeks. So get ready because you're going to be practicing and studying and working your tails off.
No, God!
Yes, you're going to work hard. I know you are.
No, God, please, no!
Yes,
No!
yes, yes.
No!
You're going to have to practice hard for the next 5 weeks because I want you to do well on that final exam. Today, we're going to start talking about lesson 23 and about traveling. And I've got some special tips to give you about traveling. So pay attention because these special tips, they will be on this week's quiz. So let's get started and talk about traveling to another country. All right, so when we travel, there are a lot of things that we need as we travel. We need to make sure that we pack our bags, we take stuff with us, but there are a few things that we really have to have. On this list, there are some things that are more important than others, some things that are not easy to get when you go to another country. Your medicine, for one. Here in Korea, we can get our medicines usually fairly cheap. I'm not going to say they're super cheap, but they are cheaper than you would get in most countries around the world. So be sure you take your medicine with you. You must always carry your passport with you. Now, I don't have to carry my passport while I'm living here in Korea because I have my alien registration card. Aliens. Yes, I am an alien. But I do have my alien registration card, and I must carry it with me while I'm in this country. Or I must carry my passport. I have to have some sort of an ID with me at all times. Some of the other things, a first aid kit is nice, and it's good if you're going on a short trip to take some of your electronics with you. You're like your hair dryer, maybe a laptop computer. Those are great things to take with you if you're going on a short trip. Now, special point, if you're going to be staying in a country for more than 6 months, don't bring electronics. You can bring your laptop, that's fine. But when you take electronics to another country, you have to deal with a plug and currency converter. Now, what I mean by a currency converter, electricity operates usually in a spectrum from 110, or from 100, I should say, to 250 or 260. Now, this is the oscillations in the electricity. They both use AC, but 100 or 110 AC and 250 and 240 AC, they don't like each other. Electronics are usually geared for one or the other, not both. You have to be very careful. If you look at your power converter to many of your electronics, and I just happen to have my power converter here this is for my laptop computer. On the back here, you'll find a little bit of information. Now, this one says that it is input for 100 to 240 volts. Now, that's good. I can use this converter anywhere in the world, but not all electronics can do that. You have to be very, very careful. And if you're going to someplace for more than 6 months, it's just easier, buy the electronics in that country and use them there. Especially if you're going to stay there for a year, 2 years, buy it there. When you finish, sell it, leave it, do whatever you want. You don't have to buy an expensive one. But when you bring one, you're going to have a voltage converter, and that can become a problem, especially it can overheat very easily. So it's just easier. Don't bring it with you. So don't take electronics. The other thing, now this is from somebody, I've lived in Korea for 18 years now, and I made this mistake when I first moved to Korea. I brought my laptop from the United States. And I thought, oh, great, I'm going to bring my own computer. This will be great and wonderful. And it was for about 2 years. Then something broke, and none of the companies here in Korea would try to fix it. None of them. So I had to send it back to America to get it fixed. And when I did that, oh my God, that was so expensive. No, I don't want to do that. No, no, don't make me do that again. If you're going to go to another country, it's just easier. Take a portable hard drive. Take the things you need with you. Now, if you're going to be there only for a short time, sure, bring your own laptop. It'll be good. If you break it, you can come back to Korea and get it fixed. But if you're going to be there for an extended time, bring the things that you're going to have. A portable hard drive, maybe a keyboard with Korean language layout. Whatever you're going to need, bring as little as possible and buy it there. Now, I know, oh, Mom, that's going to be expensive. You can rent it. You can get some things that are fairly cheap, but don't take it with you. So, and then the last thing, little travel tip here, it says to take a lock on your suitcase. Locks won't keep out a thief. I will show you in class when we get a chance how easy it is to break into a bag that's got a zipper lock. And I will also show you how easy it is to break and unlock most locks. You may say, teacher, are you trying to tell us that locks aren't worth it? Well, if you're going to be traveling, get the right bags. Now, a lock is important to make sure that your bag hasn't been violated. But if you're looking for security, it's not for security. It's just to make sure that nobody's going into your bag. Well, almost, but I'll explain that more when we get to class. So, what are the things that you're going to need when you travel? So we listen here to Teresa and Miguel, and Teresa is going to give Miguel some advice about traveling and some things that he may or may not think about if he's traveling. So let's take a listen. We'll talk on the other side.
Did you pack everything you need?
Uh-huh. I just need to buy a travel pillow at the airport.
So, this is your first overseas trip and your first flight. Are you nervous?
Not at all.
Remember, you're not allowed to take liquids on the plane.
Really? Okay. I hope I didn't forget anything.
You must take your passport.
Oh, of course. I guess I am a little nervous.
All right, so he almost forgets to take his passport with you. And this is a bad thing and a good thing. Now, little pro tip for traveling. When you've got your passport and you've got your visa to go into another country, because a lot of countries you need that visa to enter for a long period of time, take your passport, make a photocopy of it. Color photocopy is great, but make a physical copy, not just a picture, but a physical copy. A picture is great, store it on the cloud so you can have access to it whenever you need. But let's say you're traveling and you end up losing your passport. This is one way that you are able to go to the embassy, say, this is me, I lost my passport, I need to get an emergency passport. It's a little bit of money, and it does cost an expensive bit to get an emergency passport, but it is possible to get a passport from most embassies in 24 hours in an emergency, especially if you've got a plane leaving the next day. Trust me, I know. I lost my passport in Thailand. Not fun. I'll tell you that story in class. But Miguel here also runs across the idea of, did I forget anything? A couple things that are very important not to forget. One of them is your toiletries. Now, toiletries include your deodorant, your shampoos, your conditioners, anything that you're going to need that you can't get into another country. Now, some things you can, and some things you go to another country and you find a substitute. I've lived here for 18 years. I found many good substitutes for things that I know in America. Do I like the American things better? Oh, yeah. But I can do with things that are not the same. And that's the point. find the substitutes when you're in America. But if you have to have a certain, oh, I have to have a certain favorite shampoo, I have to have this, then make sure you take enough with you. When you're packing it in your bag, you're only allowed to carry a certain amount of liquids. So my pro tip number 3, put it into small bottles and then put the small bottles into a Ziploc bag. That way, if something opens or something, it's contained there and won't end up all over your clothes. Ew. No, we don't want that. We want to be able to keep our clothes nice and clean while we're there. So make sure you pack it well. And now coming back to that passport thing, you should make a photocopy of it and keep it separate from you. I usually, as a rule, I make a photocopy of my passport and I put it in with my toiletries. It's at the bottom of my toiletries in a plastic bag, zipped up at the very bottom. And the reason that I put it at the bottom of my toiletries, it's usually not the first place people will look if they're going through my bag. It's probably the last place they're going to look. So I put it there. It's my backup in case I lose my passport. I've lost it in the past, so I make sure I keep a backup with me. But also make sure you photocopy that visa because that proves who you are and why you're in the country. No problems. All right, we're going to listen to that dialogue. We're going to listen one more time. And this time, there's a couple extra sentences they add to it. Let's see what they say.
Did you pack everything you need?
Uh-huh. I just need to buy a travel pillow at the airport.
So, this is your first overseas trip and your first flight. Are you nervous?
Not at all.
Remember, you're not allowed to take liquids on the plane.
Really? Okay. I hope I didn't forget anything. Oh, I should get going.
You must take your passport. You need it to get on the plane.
Oh, of course. I guess I am a little nervous.
So forgetting your passport, not a good thing. And once you get that, make sure that you keep your passport in someplace safe. When you get to another country, if you're worried about losing your passport, most hotels have a safe that you can usually store things in for 24 to 48 hours or the length of your stay. But don't count on it being super secure. It's just more secure. Some higher end hotels have a safe in each individual room. But if you use one of those, be sure you remember the passcode because once you lock it, there's nothing they can do. So Miguel forgets things and he's going to take his first trip and his first trip overseas on an airplane. So much fun, so exciting. All right, now, pro tip number 4 about traveling on an airplane. Some people have problems with their ears and holding your nose and blowing like you're going to clear it helps to adjust the pressure in your ears. If you have problems with it, make sure that you don't have a nose cold before you go in because it can make it very uncomfortable, especially if you're traveling. This is one of the reasons why when you're on a flight and you hear babies crying and they don't know how to stop crying and they're just like, their ears are hurting, and that's most of the problem. But chewing gum, chewing often helps. Anything that gets your ears to adjust the pressure, that's always a good thing. So now, expressing prohibitions. Now, there are some things you can't do on an airplane. You can't take liquids. You can't take any kind of edge or firearm or anything like that. You can't take any of those. And they will check your bags at the airport. Now, I have, by accident, I have taken needles and a knife. I have had one in my bag and it hasn't been caught by screens. So be very careful. They do make mistakes, but try not to take anything on the plane. Most planes allow you to take 3 bags with you. One where you can put it under the airplane, inside the cabin underneath you, and that's usually your big heavy bag. be sure you check out the airplane and how much you're allowed to carry. The other thing you're allowed to carry, usually ladies, you're allowed to carry a purse and some kind of travel bag. Gentlemen, you can carry a briefcase or a backpack. Ladies, you can carry a backpack as well and a travel bag as well. So usually you're permitted 2 small bags in the cabin and your big bag under the airplane, unless the plane is very full, where they may try to check your smaller bag under the plane. And that's okay. Usually it doesn't cost you anything extra to check the extra bag if it's a full flight. You're going to check it anyway. Yeah, it's probably going to cost you a little bit of extra money, but check that out with each airline. Some airlines, the bigger airlines, especially if you're traveling internationally, will allow you to take 2 bags underneath the airplane. When I traveled to Thailand, it was amazing coming back because all I saw was suitcase, golf bag, suitcase, golf bag, golf bag, golf bag, golf bag, golf bag, suitcase, golf bag. Yeah, a lot of people went to Thailand to go golfing, and that's okay. Moving on. What things you have to take? Be sure you wear clothes that are comfortable while you're traveling. Don't pack liquids in your bag. You're allowed only a small amount of liquids in your bag. And pro tip number 6, bring a water bottle, an empty water bottle. The bottle has to be empty as you go through security so they can see there's no liquids. Usually on the other side of the security check, you can fill the bottle with water. Highly recommend a bottle of water, especially on long flights, because it can get dry. And it's good to have water with you. On the flight, you can always get up, walk around, and usually there's a place where you can fill water bottles up on an airplane. If not, you can usually ask the flight attendant, and they'll help you fill the bottle of water. What should you do? Make sure that you leave for the airport with plenty of time. Most airlines require at least 3 hours for you to check in. So you check in 3 hours before your flight, check in, go through security, and you're going to probably have about a 2-hour wait. Once you're on the other side of security, depending on where you are, you may have a layover. Layover means you're going to sit in the terminal and wait. And wait.
6 hours later.
And wait.
6 hours later.
And then maybe get on your flight to go wherever it is. But it can take a long time. So be sure to book your flights so that you can do this stuff. So check what you can carry with you. If you can't take it with you, make sure that you don't bring it. Electronics, first aid kits, those are good things, but you may not need them. Now, we're going to listen to the shortening of sounds. Now, as we've discussed many times in our class, there are some times that words end up getting blended together. Verbs and prepositions are 2 of the worst that get blended together in natural speech. Sometimes it's just what people do because they have been speaking so quickly that they end up blending the sounds together. We're going to talk about blending have and has with the preposition to and how that gets turned out. So let's take a listen.
Page 57. Pronunciation. A. Listen and practice. Notice how have to is pronounced have to, and has to is pronounced has to. 1.
We don't have to pack a hairdryer.
2. She has to pack a first aid kit.
All right, so we've got these with have to and has to. You'll hear this when people pronounce things quickly. I have to go to work. I have to do this. Have to. It makes the stress unstress in English. Have is stress, to is not. We get the T schwa, the unaccented sound. Have to, has to. We have to be careful with that. We have to do what our work is. Being very clear in your pronunciation is good and should work for good, clear pronunciation. But you will hear have to and has to a lot, especially from native speakers. So when you get to the airport and where you're traveling, you got to look at what's allowed and what's not allowed. These signs prohibit different things. Usually it's become universal. If it's red sign, it usually means don't do this. The color system is pretty much universal. Green means go, red means stop or prohibited. The stop sign, you'll see stop signs around the world, and they have almost universally accepted the octagonal shape with a red background and white letters as stop. Doesn't matter what the language is. It can be in Spanish, alto, it can be in Korean, it can be, but it's going to be written and says stop. But some things are prohibited depending on where you are. Some places do not allow photography in certain areas. Some people don't let cell phones into certain areas. People during the COVID pandemic require you wearing a mask. And so these are things prohibited. You can't go someplace unless this is fulfilled. McDonald's has a very famous rule that they've had for a long time since I was very little is no shirt, no shoes, no pets, no service. Is if you don't have a shirt on, they're not going to serve you. If you have your pet, they're not going to serve you. If you don't have shoes on, they're not going to serve you. These are some of the rules that they've had. They've had these rules since I was little. I don't remember a time they didn't have these rules. But this is where they want to keep people safe. So they ask you to follow their rules. It's not trying to cut in on your beliefs or your things or your freedoms. That is not what it's about. This is all about protecting you and protecting others. Saying that something is not allowed, there's a reason why it's not allowed. For example, there's a reason why on airplanes they don't let you use your cell phone. It's not because you can't use a cell phone on an airplane. It has been proven you can use a cell phone on an airplane. It's physically possible. But the radio waves that come in and out of your telephone, because they are radio waves, they don't necessarily interfere with the navigation or the electronics of the airplane, but they could affect some systems. We don't know exactly what systems they could affect, but it is possible to affect the system. That's why most have airplane mode. Airplane mode means it's not sending or receiving signals. It's saying, I am in the basic electronic device. I do not have any kind of connection to the outside world. And that's fine. When you have a device that you can do that, make sure you put it in airplane mode. That's why it was designed. It's not designed because we don't want you to use your telephones on there. Originally, it was probably because they want you to use the airplane telephones. Don't ever use one. It's so expensive. But if you have to, you can use theirs. But on September 11th, 2001, many people who were on the airplanes that ended up crashing, because there were 4 hijacked airplanes, and on all 4 of those planes, people used their telephones and it didn't hurt the airplane. But it's better to be safe than to be sorry. And if the flight attendant asks you, please don't do that, there's a reason why they want you not to do that. Is they want to protect everybody. Not trying to interfere with you, just they want to protect everybody. So listen to the flight attendants. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about the vocabulary in the workbook real quick, and then we're going to have some fun. So let's get started. Okay, when you need things, you might want to put them into these diagrams. What are you going to need for these various trips? What are some things that you might need when you're going camping? What would you need when you're going on a cruise? How about an adventure holiday? And what things do you never need? There are some things that we just maybe never need with us, or you might need it on more than one place. So go ahead and try those different things. Then after that, use your own ideas and the ideas from the first part, and try to put them into these sentences. I can't travel without blank. I've learned that I can't travel without a deck of cards. You say, a deck of cards? Well, everybody in our class has seen that I have a deck of cards in my bag at all times. The reason I have that is a deck of cards can be used for a lot of different things. It's fun games that you can play by yourself, the fun games you can play with other people. It's a good way to pass time. And if you ever get lost on a desert island, then you want to start playing solitaire. Why do you want to play solitaire? Well, because if you start playing solitaire long enough, somebody is going to come up and give you advice. You're on a desert island by yourself, and somebody's going to come up and give you advice. Okay. All right, so that joke wasn't that funny. Okay, I'll give that. But it is the truth, is that having a deck of cards, there's always things you can do with cards to pass the time. If you don't know how to play some card games, let me know. I'll be glad to introduce you to some very simple and easy card games that are fun to play. Moving on, we're going to talk about studying abroad. Now, this is something I highly encourage all of you to do. Go to the Foreign Language Education Center and look into the travel abroad programs. Sunshine Young has several programs. They have the intense programs over this winter and summer vacations, where you can go travel to someplace like Canada or the Philippines for 5 weeks and get an intense class in English. Usually they'll pay for the tuition and they'll pay for your stay there, your room, your part of your board. And the only thing you have to pay for is the plane ticket there and the plane ticket back and whatever souvenirs and extra foods you want to buy. But these programs are great. Or they have the longer study programs where you can go and study for 6 months or a year. And I highly, highly encourage each and every one of you, take some time. Go live outside of Korea. It changes who you are. It gives you a whole new way of looking at the world. But there are some things you're going to need, and I'm going to read this to you so you have some ideas. Study abroad in Spain. Oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, I so wish I could go to Spain and study abroad. If you plan to study abroad in Spain next year, you must follow the guidelines below. Passport. You must have a passport. It cannot expire until after you return home. It can take 6 weeks to get a passport, so start your process soon. Visa. You'll need a visa if you're going to stay more than 90 days. Some programs only last 85 days, so you won't need a visa if you return when the program ends. Flights. Some group flights are less expensive. Talk to a travel agent. You must be on time for the start of your program. Packing. Don't bring too many clothes. You need some clothes for cool weather, a jacket, sweater, etc. People don't wear shorts and t-shirts very often in Spain. You should have casual but nice clothing. Food and drink. The water is usually safe to drink in major cities. In smaller towns, buy bottled water just to be safe. You have to try the food in Spain. It is delicious. People do not eat quickly in Spain. They enjoy their food. Many restaurants are closed on Sundays. So these are some good rules when you're traveling. Find out about what's going on. When it said pack clothes, don't take too many. If you're going to stay for 85 days, you're probably not going to need to take that many clothes. What I mean is you should pack clothes that you can mix and match outfits. A good rule that I've developed over the years is to pack enough shirts for 7 days, 3 pairs of pants, 2 pairs of shorts, enough underwear. I usually take, if I take 7 days worth of clothes, I take 2 weeks worth of underwear and socks. And the reason is, while you're traveling, you may get hot and sweaty, and you may want to change them out through the day. So it's always good to have a little bit of extra underwear or socks while you're traveling. But that's what I usually pack. I spent a month in Thailand. I took 10 days worth of underwear, 10 days worth of socks, and I took 7 days worth of shirts and 2 pairs of pants and 2 pairs of shorts and my swimsuit. And that's what I took with me to Thailand. And it was great. Now, one of the things that you can do, most places that you go, like a study abroad, there's a place where you can usually do your own laundry. Some places you can pay to have your laundry done. When I was in Thailand, the hotel I stayed at had a laundry service, and I paid for the laundry service. It was very, very cheap. But you can often find a place and do your own laundry, run one load of laundry halfway through, and you're good to go. And helpful pro tip number 7, when you're a day or two before you come back from a long trip, especially if you're going to be staying study abroad, wash and dry your clothes. Pack your clothes dry and fresh. That way they're all easy to go through. You don't have anything dirty. You don't have anything that's like, ew, everything's dirty. Come back, travel clothes, all the clothes are clean. You come back, put them back in the closet, you're good to go. And it's usually a nice way to make sure that you pack everything and double check as you leave. All right, so ask and answer true, false sentences for here. Now, the last part for today, make sure that you answer these questions. In what country would you like to study abroad? I personally missed out the chance to study in Mexico. And that's one thing that if I could go back in time, I would go back and do that. I would delay my graduation 6 months and then go live in Mexico. If I had done that, I'd have been in Mexico for September 11th and not living in Houston when September 11th had. But that's a whole different story for another day. If you want to hear that story, please let me know and I'll be glad to share it with you. But what are some possible problems and students might have when you're traveling abroad? Listen back to this video and you'll find some of those things that could become a problem. Then, if you have traveled abroad, write some tips and tricks that you might give to somebody if they were going to travel abroad. And if you have not traveled abroad, what questions would you have? What things would you like to know before you travel? Then ask some of the classmates. Ask your mom, ask your dad, ask me. We'll give you some advice on what we've got there. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been great. I know you're doing well, studying hard. It's now time to say goodbye, and I will see you all in class this week. Have a great time. See you soon.